All right, welcome to this deep dive. Today we're tackling building a solid compliance program in Europe. It can feel pretty overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even begin with all the regulations?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
But we've got a plan for you, and it might seem a little counterintuitive.
Uh,
We're going to walk
Back
backwards.
backwards. Okay, I'm listening.
So the idea is instead of kind of reacting to compliance issues as they pop up,
Yeah.
putting out fires,
Right.
we're going to start by envisioning, like, your ideal compliance program,
Ah,
and then figure out how to get there.
so start with the end in mind. I like it.
Exactly. So, like, what would a truly successful compliance program look like for your business in Europe?
Well, I think the ultimate goal is to have a compliance function that is fully integrated into the business, not seen as a separate silo or a roadblock.
Right, not just a box to check.
Yeah, but a real partner to every team.
So what would that actually look like in practice?
Well, you'd see things like minimal resistance from teams when new regulations come into play because they understand the why behind it.
Makes sense.
They'd be proactively identifying and addressing potential risks.
So compliance is almost like second nature,
Exactly.
not this big scary thing. Okay, but how do we get there? What's the first step in this walking backwards plan?
The absolute first step is getting your leadership on board.
Executive buy-in.
Got it. If the people at the top aren't fully behind this, it's going to be a struggle every step of the way.
Makes sense. But how do we convince those at the top that compliance is, well, worth it?
You need to speak their language.
Which is,
Data and return on investment.
okay,
Show them the potential cost of non-compliance.
like the fines, the legal issues.
Exactly. For example, the fines for non-compliance with the GDPR can be huge.
Yeah, I've heard those are pretty scary.
Millions of euros or even a percentage of your global revenue.
Oof. But we don't want to just focus on the negative, right?
Of course not. You also need to highlight the positive side.
Okay, so like what are the benefits of a strong compliance culture?
Well, for one, it can actually make your business more efficient by streamlining processes and reducing errors. It can also enhance your brand reputation.
Oh yeah, customers care about that more and more these days.
They want to do business with companies they trust. And even investors are prioritizing businesses with robust ESG frameworks.
Yes, environmental, social, and governance, right?
You got it. So compliance is not just about avoiding risk, but actually creating value.
Okay, that's a good pitch for the boardroom. But I mean, all of this takes resources, right?
Absolutely. And that's why executive buy-in is crucial from the start. You might need a dedicated compliance team, budget for training, maybe even invest in technology.
Okay, so we've got our leadership on board, we've secured our budget. What's next?
Now we need a roadmap.
A roadmap.
A clear, concrete plan that outlines the steps to reach our compliance goals.
So it's like instead of wandering around aimlessly in the European regulatory jungle,
Exactly.
we've got a map.
Exactly. And this roadmap, it needs to include things like employee training, developing policies, and how we're going to actually manage all of this.
So everyone knows where we're going and how we're going to get there.
Precisely. And that everyone is important.
Yeah. Who are the key players we need to involve in this?
Well, that's stakeholder engagement.
Right.
And it's not just about the legal team or the compliance officer.
Okay.
We need to bring in department heads, line managers, even individual employees.
Wow. So we're really building like a compliance dream team from all across the company.
Exactly. Because ultimately, everyone has a role to play in ensuring compliance.
True. But what about those folks who might, not be so thrilled about all this compliance talk?
Resistance is natural,
Yeah.
especially when you're introducing new processes or regulations.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get some pushback. So how do we deal with that?
The key is to have open and honest conversations.
Okay.
Really listen to people's concerns, understand their perspective.
So not just dictating from on high.
Exactly. And one-on-one discussions can be really valuable here.
How so?
It allows you to address specific concerns, provide tailored support, and you might even discover some, compliance champions within each department.
Compliance champions.
Yes.
I like that. But how do we actually make sure everyone has the knowledge they need to, champion compliance?
That's where training comes in.
Okay.
But we need to move beyond those, boring, generic compliance presentations.
Yeah, everyone wants to sit through another death by PowerPoint.
Exactly. We need to make it engaging, relevant.
So interactive workshops, real-world case studies, maybe even some online learning modules.
You got it.
Now you're talking.
And you can even incorporate some gamification elements.
Compliance-themed games.
Mhm.
Okay, you have my attention.
We want to make sure that training is not just a one-time thing, but an ongoing process.
So regular refreshers, updates on new regulations.
All of that. We want compliance to stay top of mind for everyone.
Okay, so we've laid a solid foundation.
Yes.
Executive buy-in, a clear roadmap, our stakeholders are engaged, and they have the knowledge they need. Is there anything else we can do to make this whole process smoother?
Well, this is where technology can become a real game changer.
Oh,
Think of it like, having the right tools for the job.
okay.
There are some amazing compliance management platforms available. They can automate so many tasks.
Like what?
Tracking your activities, storing important documents, generating reports.
That sounds helpful.
It can even create audit trails.
So if you ever get audited.
Exactly. And it frees up your team to focus on the bigger picture, the strategic side of compliance.
Instead of getting bogged down in the day-to-day.
Precisely. So you can really focus on those proactive strategies.
This is starting to sound less like a grueling trek and more like a scenic hike with all the right gear. But, I mean, with a system this sophisticated, can we just set it and forget it?
Absolutely not. Compliance is not a static thing.
Right.
It's constantly evolving.
And I know the regulations always seem to be changing.
That's right. So you need to constantly monitor your compliance program, get feedback from your stakeholders, and stay updated on all the latest changes.
So it's about being proactive and adaptable, like checking the weather forecast before you head out on a hike.
Exactly. We have to be prepared to adjust.
Okay, so amidst all this hard work, can we celebrate our wins?
Of course.
Compliance doesn't exactly scream party time.
I know, but it's important to acknowledge your compliance champions, share success stories.
Like throw a little compliance party.
Well, maybe not a party, but, recognize the effort. Maybe even create a compliance award.
Oh, I like that.
It shows people that compliance matters.
Right, that it's something to be celebrated.
Exactly. So we've got a great compliance culture going.
Right.
Our teams are happy. Executives are thrilled.
But what happens if the company decides to expand?
Yeah.
Into new European countries or regions?
That's a great question.
Does our walking backwards plan still work?
It does, but it needs to be scalable. Your compliance program, it can't be rigid.
Right.
It needs to be adaptable and able to grow with your business.
So as we conquer new markets, our compliance system is right there with us.
Exactly. And that might mean integrating new country-specific regulations.
Right, but we've already got that solid foundation.
Exactly. And if you embrace continuous improvement, you'll be able to scale effectively.
This walking backwards approach is really making sense to me now.
Good.
By starting with the end goal, mapping everything out strategically, we set ourselves up for success no matter what challenges come our way.
Exactly. And we can delve deeper into turning compliance into a competitive advantage after a quick break.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm ready to dive a little deeper into this idea of compliance as a competitive advantage. I'll admit it's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think about compliance.
Yeah, I get that. Compliance, it's often seen as just a necessary evil, something you have to do.
What box to check?
Yeah, but it's really evolving, especially these days.
How so?
Well, consumers, they're much more aware now.
Oof.
Data privacy, ethical sourcing, sustainability.
Right, they want to support businesses that align with their values.
Exactly.
So you're saying that companies who prioritize compliance, they're not just avoiding risks, they're actually attracting customers.
Exactly. It's about building trust.
Okay, so give me an example. How does this work in the real world?
All right, well, let's take a company like Unilever.
Okay, the consumer goods giant.
Right. They've integrated the sustainable living plan across all their brands.
So that includes what? Reducing their environmental impact?
Yep.
Improving health and well-being, enhancing livelihoods.
Sounds pretty comprehensive.
It is. And they're not just, paying lip service to this.
Okay.
They've set measurable targets. They publicly report on their progress.
So they're walking the walk.
Exactly. And consumers, they respond to that.
Makes sense.
Research shows that they're willing to pay more, for products from companies they see as ethical.
Interesting. But what about industries where compliance maybe doesn't seem as sexy? I don't know, finance, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Can they really turn regulations into a selling point?
Oh, absolutely. Look at a company like Wise, formerly TransferWise.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them. International money transfers.
Right. they built their whole business model around transparency and fairness.
Okay.
They show all their fees, their exchange rates up front.
Yeah.
Unlike traditional banks with all those hidden charges.
Right.
Their commitment to compliance, it's a core part of their brand.
So they're using it to differentiate themselves. Exactly. They're basically saying, we play by the rules and we make your life easier.
Smart.
And customers, they appreciate that.
Okay, I'm starting to see how compliance can actually be a real differentiator, no matter what industry you're in.
It's about shifting the mindset. Compliance isn't just a cost.
Right.
It's an investment.
An investment in
Trust, in your reputation, ultimately in sustainable growth.
Okay, I'm convinced. But how do we actually do this? How do we make compliance part of the company's DNA?
It starts with leadership.
Okay.
If your leadership team really believes in compliance, it'll filter down through the whole organization.
You need to walk the walk.
Exactly. Make compliance part of the company's strategic goals, put resources behind it, reward employees who prioritize it.
So it's not just about having a compliance officer tucked away somewhere.
No, it needs to be everyone's responsibility.
Right, a true culture of compliance.
Exactly. But remember, it's a journey.
Not a destination.
Right. So what can we do to nurture this culture?
Yeah. How do we keep it going?
Communication is key. Keep employees informed about compliance issues. Share success stories.
And maybe, not just the good stuff.
Yeah, be transparent about challenges, lessons learned.
Right.
Create a space for open dialogue.
So people feel comfortable speaking up.
Exactly. And on a practical level, make sure your compliance guidelines are, user-friendly.
Not just a bunch of legal jargon.
Right. Use plain language, maybe some visuals, make it engaging.
And technology can play a role here too, right?
Absolutely.
So like what?
Think e-learning platforms for training, workflow automation tools, maybe even some data analytics to identify potential risks.
So we're not just reacting to problems, but trying to prevent them.
Exactly. It's about being proactive.
I'm really liking this shift in perspective. We're talking about compliance as a force for good.
It can be.
Not just a burden.
Mm-hmm.
And it can actually drive positive change. Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Before we wrap up, is there anything else we should be thinking about as we embark on this journey?
One thing we haven't touched on is the importance of continuous improvement. Compliance, it's not static.
Right.
New regulations pop up, technologies change, business practices evolve.
So we need to be adaptable.
Yes. Embrace that mindset of continuous learning.
Always looking for ways to do better.
Exactly. Regularly review your program, get feedback, stay informed about new trends and best practices.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it all alone. There are plenty of resources and communities out there to help you.
This has been fantastic. I'm feeling much more optimistic about compliance.
Good.
It's not just about following rules. It's about doing the right thing.
I completely agree.
And building a business we can be proud of.
Yes.
All right, so for all you compliance enthusiasts out there, remember, walk backwards, embrace the challenge, and turn compliance into your competitive advantage.
I like.
And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. All right, welcome back. So we've talked a lot about this walking backwards approach and how compliance can be a real strength for businesses.
Yeah.
But let's see it in action. What companies are actually nailing this whole compliance as a competitive advantage thing?
Well, there are a lot of great examples out there.
Okay.
But maybe let's start with one you might not expect.
Okay, I love a good surprise. Lay it on me.
A beverage company.
A beverage company. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
So think about a company like Tony's Chocolonely.
Tony's Chocolonely, okay.
They're on this mission to make a 100% slave-free chocolate the norm.
Wow, that's a bold mission.
Yeah.
But how does that connect to compliance as a competitive advantage?
Well, they've gone above and beyond, just complying with those basic fair trade standards. They've mapped their entire supply chain. They built direct relationships with cocoa farmers, and they've implemented this bean-to-bar traceability system.
So they know exactly where their beans are coming from.
Exactly. And this commitment to ethical sourcing, it's like a core part of their brand.
So they're not just selling chocolate, they're selling like a story.
Right. A commitment to a cause that consumers can really get behind.
And it's working.
Oh, yeah, it's working. Their packaging, their whole vibe, it's unique. and their business practices are transparent. So they've gained a loyal following, they've captured a big chunk of the market.
Even though their chocolate's probably a bit more expensive.
Yeah, but people are willing to pay a premium for it.
Because they believe in what Tony's Chocolonely stands for.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
it's a great example of how doing the right thing, ethically, it can really pay off.
Okay, so we've got a chocolate company. What about something a little more tech-focused? Where does compliance fit into the fast-paced world of, I don't know, software development?
Well, let's take a look at Slack.
Slack. Okay.
Yeah, the workplace communication platform.
One we're probably using right now.
Probably. Anyway, they've put a huge emphasis on data security and privacy.
Okay, that's definitely important these days.
They've got all these certifications like ISO 27001, SOC2.
Which basically proves they're serious about protecting customer data.
Exactly. And they're transparent about it. They provide clear information about their data practices, their privacy policies. It's all easy to find, easy to understand.
So they're not just building a great product.
Yep.
They're also building trust.
Right. And in a world where data breaches are, constantly in the news,
Yeah.
customers want to know that their information is safe. So Slack's commitment to compliance, it's become a real differentiator for them.
Makes them stand out.
Yep. It helps them attract and retain customers.
Okay, these are great examples, but what about smaller companies? Startups, businesses that are maybe just starting their compliance journey. Can they achieve this kind of competitive advantage too?
Absolutely. It's not about the size of your company. It's about the mindset. Even small steps, towards greater transparency, ethical sourcing, data privacy, they can make a difference.
So it's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. It's about taking that proactive approach and really weaving compliance into the fabric of your business.
And it's okay to start small.
Yep. You don't have to become Tony's Chocolonely overnight.
Right.
And remember, there's a lot of support out there. There are resources, communities. You don't have to figure it all out on your own.
This has been fantastic. We've
Yeah.
covered so much ground today.
Yeah.
We learned about walking backwards, mapping out our compliance journey. And we've seen how companies, big and small, are really turning compliance into a real strength, a competitive edge.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
It is. And it's not just about following rules.
No,
It's about doing the right thing, building a business you can be proud of.
absolutely.
All right, so for everyone out there listening, remember, walk backwards, embrace the challenge, and turn compliance into your competitive advantage.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.